Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all at home for watching this meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Carmel. Today's date is St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patty's Day, everyone. It's March 17th, 2021. Before we get started, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, as always. Would everybody please rise? Councilman Shano, would you lead us tonight?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd just like to take a moment to remember all our servicemen and women who are away from their families, fighting for our country and our freedom, and also keep all those in mind that have passed away due to COVID, and all our servicemen who have been from home to their families. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, once again, welcome everyone. Tonight's town board meeting is a dual meeting. So the first portion of the meeting is going to be a town board voting meeting. It's a lengthy voting meeting this evening, so I will be reading resolutions as well. For the record, Councilwoman McDonough is not here with us this evening. She's on vacation and wasn't able to join us. The other four board members are here tonight and present, as is our town clerk, Ann Spofford. Ann, thanks for being here. Town Chief of Police, Carmel Chief of Police Anthony Hoffman is here, and also Mary Ann Maxwell, the town comptroller, is with us, as well as Greg Fulchetti, our Carmel Town Council. So once again, it is a dual meeting. We're going to start with the voting meeting resolutions tonight. But prior to coming out for the public portion of the meeting, the board met in executive session with Mary Ann Maxwell, the town comptroller, to consider an insurance proposal. So without further ado, we're going to start with the voting meeting agenda items. So the first item on the agenda is to accept the town board minutes of February 17th and March 3rd, 2021. I need a motion to accept those.
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Lombardi.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Shannell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So the first resolution tonight is a resolution making an appointment to the Town of Carmel Environmental Conservation Board. Councilman Shannell, would you read Resolution 1, please?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby appoints Nicole Cedrin to the Town of Carmel Environmental Conservation Board, replacing Vincent Toronto, for a term commencing immediately and expiring on June 13th, 2022. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay. Offered by Councilman Shannell, seconded by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote.
Councilman Shannell?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes. Motion carried. I'd like to thank Nicole Cedrin for signing up and submitting a resume to serve as a member of the Environmental Conservation Board. She has an excellent background in environmental studies, and she's going to be a great asset to the Environmental Conservation Board. So we look forward to her joining that board in the very near future. So thank you, Nicole, for volunteering to serve on that board. Okay, resolution number 2 is a resolution authorizing scheduling of a public hearing on a proposed contract renewing a cable television franchise agreement with Comcast of New York, LLC, dated April 7, 2021. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the scheduling of a public hearing at Town Hall, 60 McAlpin Avenue, Mahopac, New York, on Wednesday, April 7th, 2021 at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter that evening as possible on a proposed contract renewing cable television franchise agreement with Comcast of New York, LLC, and be it further resolved that pursuant to Title 16 CRR-NY 8094.7, copies of all franchise applications, as well as copies of the contract which is proposed to be renewed and available for public inspection during normal business hours at Carmel Town Hall, 60 McAlpin Avenue, Mahopac, New York. And be it further resolved that Town Clerk Ann Spofford is hereby authorized and instructed to publish and post the necessary notices in the official newspapers of the town and on the town bulletin board regarding this public hearing. I offer the resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Borelli. Roll call vote.
Councilman Shannell?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution number 3 is a resolution accepting a rebate award and execution of state assistance contract New York State DEC Zero Emissions Vehicle Infrastructure Grant Program for $52,272. Councilman Borelli, would you read Resolution 3?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby accepts rebates from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for the Zero Emission Vehicle Infrastructure Grant Program totaling $52,272. And be it further resolved that Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is hereby authorized to execute any state assistance contract provided by New York State Department of Environmental Conservation in connection with the referenced rebate award described herein. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, offered by Councilman Borelli, seconded by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote.
Councilman Channel.
Yes.
Councilman Borelli.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 4, is a resolution authorizing budget modifications 2020/5B as in boy. Councilman Lombardi, would you read Resolution 4?
Sure. Whereas the Town Controller, Mary Ann Maxwell, has reviewed the proposed final budget modifications for the period ending December 31st, 2020, with the Town Board, which are detailed and explained on the attached budget revision schedule 2020-5B. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel hereby authorizes and ratifies the final budget modifications revisions for the period ending December 31st, 2020, as shown itemized on Schedule 2020-5B, which is attached here to incorporated herein and made part thereof. I offer this resolution as read.
Okay, offered by Councilman Lombardi. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Channel. Roll call vote.
Councilman Channel.
Yes.
Councilman Borelli.
No, I can't vote on this. This is another $15,000 towards a $250,000 bill to investigate myself, and it was just a waste of taxpayers' money. Also, you have 2 other theft services claims that I'm aware of, and this company has not been hired to investigate them. And then when you foil the bill for this company, 95% of it is redacted. How do you provide a bill to the Town of Carmel and redact 95% of it? I vote no.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Bob, just on this resolution, just read up to here, and then offer the rest as pre-filed.
Okay.
As pre-filed with the town clerk.
Okay.
All right, so the first 2 paragraphs, and then the remainder will be as pre-filed with the town clerk.
Okay.
All right. Okay, next resolution, number 5, is a resolution amending the Carmel Fire Protection District Number 1 Service Award Program point system for periods when special response rules are in effect during the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020. Councilman Channel, would you read Resolution 5, please?
Whereas, as authorized by Article 11-A of the New York State General Municipal Law, the Town Board of the Town of Carmel established a service award program for active volunteer firefighters of the Town of Carmel Fire Protection District Number 1. And whereas active volunteer firefighters earn Carmel Fire Protection District Number 1 Service Award Program service credit under the Service Award Program point system adopted by the Town Board of the Town of Carmel for the Carmel Fire Protection District, and
Keep going up to where it says state disaster emergency. So where it says state disaster emergency, you can end it.
And whereas, in response to the outbreak of novel coronavirus COVID-19, New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo declared a state disaster emergency and issued Executive Order 202 of 2020 in response to the state disaster emergency. New York State fire districts, towns, villages, cities, and their volunteer fire department/company officials adopted special response rules restricting volunteer firefighter responses to emergency responses and/or restricting the holding of activities for which point could be earned during the state disaster emergency. I would like to offer this resolution as read and as is filed with the town clerk's office.
Okay, thanks, Bob. And it's up to 5 points is what they're allowing for the Volunteer Fire Department and Carmel Ambulance Corps, because during the COVID pandemic, they weren't drilling the way they normally would, and they were limited to the amount of points that they can accrue during a regular non-COVID year. So the governor, by executive order, Chapter 113 of 2020, they allowed up to 5 additional points for the members of the local fire departments and the Carmel Ambulance Corps. That will not be extended unless the governor decides to extend it beyond February 26th of 2021. So it's 5 points for 2020. The governor has not extended Chapter 13 for additional points for 2021. So it's just 5 points during the COVID pandemic that they're allowing the fire departments to accrue towards their point credits that they have to maintain. Who seconded that, Bob?
Nobody yet.
Nobody yet.
Okay, all right. You want a second?
Yes.
He finished.
You offer it?
Yeah, did you offer it as pre-filed, Bob?
Yes, as
Yes,
pre-filed
as
with the
pre-filed
town
with the
clerk's
town clerk.
offices and as read.
All right, it was seconded by Councilman Borelli. Roll call vote?
Councilman Shannell?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried, thank you. So Resolution 6 is also a resolution amending the Carmel Fire Protection District Number 2. That's Mahopac Fire Department Service Award Point Program point system for periods when special response rules are in effect during the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020. Whereas and authorized by Article 11A of the New York State General Municipal Law, the Town Board of the Town of Carmel established a Service Award Program for active volunteer firefighters of the Town of Carmel, Fire Protection District Number 2, and whereas the active volunteer firefighters earn Service Award programs credits under the Service Award Point System adopted by the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, and whereas in response to the outbreak of the novel coronavirus COVID-19, New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo declared a state disaster emergency and issued Executive Order 202 of 2020 in response to the state disaster emergency. New York State fire districts, towns, villages, cities, and their volunteer fire department companies officials adopted special response rules restricting volunteer firefighters' responses to emergency responses and or restricting the holding of activities for which points could be earned during the state disaster emergency. And so I'm going to offer the remainder of the resolution as pre-filed with the town clerks. I offer that resolution as read and as pre-filed.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Borelli and Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote?
Councilman Shannell?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes. Motion carried. So Mike, just read down to.
Want me to read it down to
Yeah,
here?
read down to here. End it right here at state disaster emergency. And then offer the rest as pre-filed. Okay, next resolution, number 7, is also a resolution amending the Carmel Volunteer Ambulance Corps Service Award Program point system for periods when special response rules are in effect during the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020. Councilman Borelli, would you read Resolution 7?
Whereas, as authorized by Article 11-AAA of the New York State General Municipal Law, the Town Board of the Town of, you got a typo there, Carmel, established a service award program for volunteer members of the Carmel Volunteer Ambulance Corps. And whereas active volunteer members of the Corps earn Service Award Program service credit under the Carmel Volunteer Ambulance Corps Service Award Program point system, adopted by the Town Board of the Town of Carmel. And whereas, in response to the outbreak of the, again typo, COVID-19, New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo declared a state disaster emergency and issued Executive Order 202 of 2020 in response to the state disaster emergency. New York State towns, villages, cities, and/or their volunteer ambulance company officials adopted special response rules restricting volunteer ambulance company members' responses to emergency responses and/or restricting the holding of activities for which points could be earned by volunteers during the state disaster emergency. I offer the balance as pre-filed with the town clerk.
Okay, so offered by Councilman Borelli, seconded by Councilman Shannell and Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote?
Councilman Shannell?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, resolution number 8 is a resolution authorizing advertising for bids, Town of Carmel Highway Department, spring supplies and materials. Councilman Lombardi, would you read 8, please?
Resolved that pursuant to the request of Highway Superintendent Michael Simoni, Town Clerk Ann Spofford is hereby authorized to advertise for bids for the purchase of the following items for fiscal year 2021. Crushed gravel, granular base, which is item 4, run of bank gravel, bituminous concrete, road oils, catch basin and subwood tops, tree felling and trimming, steel culvert drain pipes, aluminum culvert drain pipes, polyethylene drain pipes, and street sweeping. Be it further resolved, the town highway superintendent is to furnish detailed specifications for the above to the town clerk to be used in conjunction with the town's general bid conditions and specifications. I offer the resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Borelli. Roll call vote?
Councilman Channel.
Yes.
Councilman Borelli.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 9, is a resolution acknowledging performance of emergency repairs and services for Carmel Water and Sewer Districts. Councilman Shano, would you read 9?
Resolve the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of the various water and sewer districts of the Town of Carmel, hereby acknowledges the emergency performance of water and/or sewer district collection system/distribution system and treatment facility repairs. All as fully detailed in the memorandum of Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., to the Town Board dated March 2nd, 2021, as attached hereto and made a part thereof. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote?
Councilman Channel.
Yes.
Councilman Borelli.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 10, is a resolution authorizing advertising for bids, Carmel Sewer District Number 2, wastewater treatment plant clarifier. Resolved that pursuant to the request of the town engineer, Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., Town Clerk Ann Spofford is hereby authorized to advertise for bids for the purchase and installation of a new clarifier drive for the Carmel Sewer District Number 2 wastewater treatment plant. And be it further resolved that the town engineer is to furnish detailed specifications for the above to the town clerk to be used in conjunction with the town's general bid conditions and specifications. I offer the resolution as read.
Second.
Second by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote?
Councilman Channel.
Yes.
Councilman Borelli.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 11, is a resolution authorizing advertising for bids, Town of Carmel Town Hall cleaning services. Councilman Borelli, would you read 11?
Resolved that pursuant to the request of the town engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., Town Clerk Ann Spofford is hereby authorized to advertise for bids for Town Hall cleaning services, contract C-249. Be it further resolved that the town engineers to furnish detailed specifications for the above to the town clerk to be used in conjunction with the town's general bid conditions and specifications. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, offered by Councilman Borelli, seconded by Councilman Shannell. Roll call vote?
Councilman Channel.
Yes.
Councilman Borelli.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 12, is a resolution authorizing payment to East of Hudson Watershed Corporation. Councilman Lombardi, would you read 12, please?
Resolved that upon the recommendation and determination of Town of Carmel engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes payment in the sum of $25,090.28 to the East of Hudson Watershed Corporation for operation and maintenance related to the 2020 retrofits in accordance with the Town of Carmel's overall phosphorus reduction requirements, as well as in accordance with the operation and maintenance policies for East of Hudson Watershed Corporation previously adopted by the Town of Carmel, and the invoice from EOHWC dated February 16th, 2021. I offer the resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Borelli. Roll call vote?
Councilman Channel.
Yes.
Councilman Borelli.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 13, it's a resolution authorizing renewal of agreement with the County of Putnam for special patrol officers. This is in the town, the officers that are in the town hall lobby here during the business day from 8:30 to 4:30. Councilman Shannell, would you read 13, please?
Resolved that the Town Board, of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the renewal and entry into an agreement with the County of Putnam and the Putnam County Sheriff's Office for the provision of special patrol officers for the Town of Carmel Town Hall per said agreement as attached hereto and made a part thereof. And be it further resolved that the Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is hereby authorized to sign said agreement and any related documentation thereto. And be it further resolved that Town Controller Mary Ann Maxwell is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget modifications required in connection with this authorization. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, second by Councilman Borelli. Roll call vote.
Councilman Chano?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, so the next resolution, number 14, is a resolution adopting the Governor's Executive Order 203 that was issued last June to all police departments in New York State, sheriff's departments, village PDs, to adopt a police reform and reinvention collaborative plan. So after many, many months, since June of 2020, the Town of Carmel Police Department, Putnam County Sheriff's Department, Town of Kent Police Department, and the villages within Putnam County that have PDs have been working on this plan that was ordered by the governor, and it's Executive Order 203 in regards to the police reform and reinvention. So we're here tonight to vote on the resolution adopting this voluminous plan that's 172 pages that is going to be has to be sent up to the New York State Budget Office by April 1st of this year. So after many, many hours and days of meeting with stakeholder groups in the community, was a good cross-section of feedback that we have gotten from the community. Many, many groups have met with the chief, Lieutenant Dearman, Lieutenant Kunz, myself, and others to develop this plan. We had 2 public meetings where the public weighed in and gave us input on this plan. We took everything that was mentioned by the members of the public, that any concerns or considerations that they may have had that they wanted to see incorporated in this plan. We reviewed those. The Chief of Police, Chief Hoppman's here tonight. He reviewed those recommendations from the public, and we did incorporate some of their suggestions or recommendations in this plan. So whatever was relevant that we felt was important, it should be part of the plan, we did do that. So, Chief, a lot of work went into this plan with you, Lieutenant Dearman, and others, and I certainly appreciate the amount of effort and work and the many, many hours that were dedicated to developing this plan. It wasn't easy. The town board actually retained the service of the consulting firm called Daigle Law to review the policies and procedures of the Town of Carmel Police Department as well. So that's ongoing, and there will be recommendations made by Daigle Law, the consulting firm that's reviewing our policies and procedures, of changes that should be made to the policies and procedures. And we'll make those changes going forward, because I believe that work, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, is still ongoing, and the review is still in process. So there'll be changes going forward, but this was about transparency of the Carmel Police Department and about relationship between the public and our local police department. We want that to be a good relationship. We want the public to trust our local PD, which I think they do. But if there's any changes that need to be made with respect to this, those changes will be implemented. So the committee members and stakeholder groups, as I said, met on multiple occasions, and it represented the wide cross-section. The town devised a strong plan, I believe, to address the governor's executive order, and I'm satisfied that going forward that this will be a good working plan. It will improve the relationship between the public and the Carmel Police Department, and any changes that are relevant that need to be made with respect to our policies and procedures and the SOPs, the standard operating procedures in Carmel PD. Those recommendations will be made, and I'm sure that the chief at that point will bring those forward to the board to consider those changes to the procedures and policies of the PD. So, Chief, I think I covered pretty quickly. I gave kind of a broad overview of what this was about. This was the manual that was presented to the town that we had to follow with respect to Executive Order 203, and we did follow it to the T. So we complied with that. We did what we needed to do, and I think going forward, there's going to be positive results that we're going to see from this with respect to the community and how it views our local PD. which I didn't think was that bad to begin with, but whatever changes that were necessary that we needed to make to implement this, we did do that. So the public should, be reassured and feel very confident and comfortable that you have a local Town of Carmel Police Department that cares about their community members, all community members that reside in the Town of Carmel, and all visitors that may happen to visit the Town of Carmel, that you're in good hands with our police department. You'll be treated well, you'll be treated with respect and dignity, and we don't expect anything less than that from our police officers. And I expect that will continue, and we'll all appreciate the changes that were made. So, Chief, do you have any comments that you'd like to make at this point, or did I pretty much cover most of it? All right, but if there's anything you'd like to add, just feel free to come up to the podium and add that as well. So this has to be sent up, as I said, to the Bureau of Finance by April 1st, so it will get in the mail, registered mail. I think, Ann, are you responsible for that as the town clerk, to make sure that the plan is sent up to?
No, I think your office will.
My office is, okay. All right, we'll make sure that gets done. All right, so I talked a lot, so I got you.
So that's an ongoing work in progress, so to speak. There'll be
It's an ongoing work in-
modifications when needed.
Yeah. When there's changes or amendments needed to be made, they'll be made by the board, because the board sets the policies and procedures for the Carmel PD. We also amend the policies and procedures manual.
And
So
they'll be-
any changes going forward, it'll be brought to us for amendments to the policy.
And they'll be reviewed yearly, the
Yes.
policies and procedures.
They'll be reviewed yearly.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so Resolution 14, resolution adopting Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Plan. Whereas the Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Plan was directed by Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 203 on June 12th of 2020, and whereas all municipalities in New York State that have a police force are required to participate in Reform and Reinvention Collaborative and submit a written plan by April 1st of 2021. And whereas if communities fail to submit a written plan, their funding will be withheld by New York State Department of Budget. And whereas this process was structured according to the guidelines provided in the New York State Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative, requiring community input and participation, along with an assessment of policing policies and procedures. And whereas the Town of Carmel understands that maintaining public safety is extremely important and is one of the essential roles of government, that in order to achieve that goal, there must be a mutual trust and respect between police and the communities they serve. And whereas the Town of Carmel and the Town of Carmel Police Department has followed the guidelines of the Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative in the following ways: by reviewing the needs of the community served by the Town of Carmel Police Department and evaluating the department's current policies and practices, established and elevated policies that allow for police to safely perform their duties, involved the entire community and the multiple stakeholder groups within the community in a collaborative process, hosted public forums for receiving comment and input from the community and multiple stakeholder groups on the draft Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Plan on February 16th, 2021, and on March 2nd, 2021. Participated on the Putnam County panel, along with the community subcommittees from November 24th, 2020 through February 17th, 2021. And whereas the Town of Carmel Town Board has read and referenced the reference plan and the information contained therein, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby accepts and adopts the Town of Carmel Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Plan in form as is in file with the Office of the Town Supervisor, and be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon adoption of this resolution, will send the Town of Carmel Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Plan together with a certified copy of this resolution to the New York State Department of Budget by the established deadline, which is April 1st of 2021, for full compliance of Executive Order 203. I offer the resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lombardi, Councilman Borelli,
Second.
and Councilman Shannell. I'll second that too. So it was seconded by the entire town board. Roll call vote?
Councilman Shannell.
Yes.
Councilman Borelli.
Yes,
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
great job, Chief.
And thank Lieutenant Dearman and Lieutenant Kunz as well.
Everybody, yep.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next resolution, number 15, is a resolution adopting a plan for continuation of operations pursuant to New York State Labor Law, Section 27C. This is very similar to the Police Reform and Reinvention Plan that needed to be adopted. We have to adopt this plan as well. Councilman Borelli, would you read 15, please?
Whereas New York State Labor Law, Section 27C, requires each public employer to prepare a plan for the continuation of operations should the governor declare a state disaster emergency involving a communicable disease in the future. Whereas, in accordance with Section 27C, the town drafted such a plan and presented it to all certified representatives of the town's employees. And these representatives were granted an opportunity to review said draft and make recommendations thereto. And whereas, in accordance with Section 27C, the town considered and responded to such recommendations in writing and made appropriate revisions to the draft. And whereas a revised plan is attached hereto now and therefore, be it resolved in accordance with Section 27C, the Town Board for the Town of Carmel hereby adopts the attached operations plan and directs the town clerk for the Town of Carmel to publish and post said plan in a clear and conspicuous location at Town Hall, in the employee handbook, and on the town employee internet by no later than April 1st, 2021. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
All right, I'll second that also. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Shannon?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. And once again, this was a governor's executive order. This was in response to the COVID pandemic that struck New York State and the entire country in March of 2020. So this is an emergency operations plan that the town had to adopt. And this is for any communicable disease going forward. If in the event that there's another pandemic in New York State or anywhere where they have to activate the special responses to the pandemic, this is a plan that we put in place that will initiate the action plan for the operations, emergency operations of Carmel Town Hall and the town of Carmel. So this plan, again, has to be sent up to Albany by April 1st and filed with the Office of the State Comptroller in order, and so this plan was reviewed by all of our collective bargaining units, and they did give us impact, and we made some changes based on their feedback that we had gotten from them, and they were incorporated in the plan. So thank you all that worked on this. We have Special Labor Counsel from Jackson Lewis, Rob Giudotti, was very instrumental in helping us draft this plan, so thank you all. Okay. So next resolution is resolution number 16, is a resolution awarding bid Carmel Water District Number 2 for water main lining contract C265. Councilman Lombardi, would you read 16, please?
Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Carmel had previously authorized advertisement for the solicitation of bids for the relining of approximately 23,800 linear feet of water main lining in Carmel Water District Number 2, contract C265. And where such bids were received and opened on February 23rd, 2021, and now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of Carmel Water District Number 2, and upon the recommendation of design engineer Robert J. Fulchetti Associates, LLC, hereby awards the said contract to Michael's Pipe Service, Salem, Oregon, or the lowest responsible bidder, meeting specifications at a contract price of $3,152,200, and be it further resolved that upon presentation of insurance certificates and performance and labor materials bonds in form as acceptable to Town Council, Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is hereby authorized to execute the contract documentation pursuant to this authorization. I offer the resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, offered by Councilman Lombardi, seconded by Councilman Borelli. Roll call vote?
Councilman Shannon?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 18, is a resolution, 17, is a resolution accepting a proposal for insurance, Brown & Brown DBA Spain Agency. Councilman Shannon, Would you read 17, please?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby accepts the proposal of Brown & Brown of New York Incorporated, DBA Spain Agency, Mahopac, New York, to provide liability insurance to the Town of Carmel for the period of April 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2022, in the form as is on file in the office of the Town Supervisor, and be it further resolved that Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is hereby authorized to sign all necessary documentation required to accept such proposal. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote.
Councilman Channel?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 18, is a resolution supplementing the bond resolution dated August 26, 2020, to authorize the issuance of an additional $500,000 in serial bonds of the Town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, to pay part of the cost of the planning and preliminary expenses in connection with the improvements of Carmel Water District Number 2 in and for said town. So Resolution 18 is a resolution whereas the capital project hereinafter described and proposed has been determined to be a Type 2 action pursuant to the regulations of New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, promulgated pursuant to State Environmental Quality Review Act, which regulations state that Type 2 actions will not have a significant effect on the environment. And whereas by a bond resolution dated August 26, 2020, the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, authorized the issuance of $2,650,000 in serial bonds of said town to pay for the cost of the planning and preliminary expenses in conjunction with the improvements to Carmel Water District Number 2, including incidental expenses in connection therewith in and for said town. And whereas it has been determined that the maximum estimated cost of such specific project, specific object or purpose is $3,150,000, constituting an increase of $500,000 over that previously authorized amount. And whereas it is now desired to authorize the issuance of an additional $500,000 in bonds of said town for such specific object or purpose, now therefore be it resolved by the affirmative vote of not less than 2/3 of the total voting strength of the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, as follows. Section 1, for the specific object or purpose of paying the $500,000 additional cost of the planning and preliminary expenses in connection with improvements to Water District Number 2, including incidental expenses in connection therewith, they are hereby authorized to issue an additional $500,000 in bonds of said town pursuant to the provisions of the local finance law. Section 2, it is hereby determined that the maximum estimated cost of such specific object or purpose is now $3,150,000, and that the plan for the financing thereof is as follows. By the issuance of the $2,650,000 in bonds of said town authorized to be issued pursuant to the aforesaid bond resolution dated and duly adopted on August 26, 2020, and by the issuance of additional $500,000 in bonds of said town herein authorized to be issued pursuant to this bond resolution. Section 3, it is hereby determined that a period of probable usefulness of the aforesaid specific object or purpose is 5 years pursuant to subdivision 62, second of paragraph 1, section 11 of the local finance law, calculated from the date of issuance of the first bond anticipation note for said specific object or purpose. It is hereby further determined that the maximum maturity of the serial bonds herein authorized will not exceed 5 years. The faith and credit of said Town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, are hereby irrevocably pledged for the payment of principal and interest on such bonds as the same respectively become due and payable. An annual appropriation shall be made in each year sufficient to pay the principal of and interest of such bonds becoming due and payable in such year. There shall annually be levied on all taxable real property in said town a tax sufficient to pay the principal and interest on such bonds as the same became due and payable. Section 5, all other matters except as provided herein relating to the serial bonds herein authorized, including the date, denominations, maturities, and interest payment dates, with the limitations prescribed herein and the manner of execution of the same, including the consolidation with other issues, and also the ability to issue serial bonds with substantially level or declining annual debt service, shall be determined by the supervisor, the chief fiscal officer of such town. Such bonds shall contain sustainability the recital of validity clause provided for Section 52.00 of the local finance law and shall otherwise be in such form and contain such recitals in addition to those required by Section 51-00 of the local finance law, as the supervisor shall determine consistent with the provisions of the local finance law. Section 6, subject to the provisions of the local law, the power to authorize the issuance and to sell bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of sale of the serial bonds herein authorized, including renewals of such notes, is hereby delegated to the supervisor, the chief fiscal officer. Such notes shall be of such terms and form and contents and shall be sold in a manner as to be prescribed by said supervisor, consistent with the provisions of the local finance law. Section 7, the validity of such bonds and bond anticipation notes may be contested only if such obligations are authorized for an object or purpose which said town is not authorized to expend the money, or provisions of such law should be compiled with at the date of the publication of the resolution are not sustainably complied with. And an action, suit, or proceeding contesting such validity is commenced within 20 days after the date of the publication, or such obligations are authorized in violation of the provisions of the Constitution. Section 8, this resolution shall constitute a statement of official intent for purposes of Treasury Regulations, Section 1.150-2, other than specified in the resolution. No monies are or reasonably expected to be reserved, allocated on a long-term basis, or otherwise set aside with respect to the permanent funding of the project or purpose described herein. Section 9, this resolution, which takes effect immediately, shall be published in summary thereof of the official newspaper of the said town for such purpose, together with a notice to the town clerk in substantially the form provided in Section 81.00 of the local finance law. I offer this lengthy resolution as read.
Second.
Second.
Seconded by the board, I believe. Thanks, Vinnie. Roll call vote.
Councilman Channel?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, resolution number 19 is the final resolution of this evening, is a resolution accepting a proposal for professional design services for Carmel Water District Number 2. Councilman Borelli, would you read 19?
Resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of Carmel Water District Number 2, and upon the recommendation and request of Town of Carmel engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., authorizes the acceptance of the proposal of Hazen and Sawyer's Engineers, New York, New York, and Arcadius of New York, Inc., for design and construction administration services to be rendered in connection with the construction of a new water treatment plant for Carmel Water District Number 2. A cost not to exceed $2,696,000. Be it further resolved that the town supervisor, Kenneth Schmidt, is hereby authorized to execute any and all documentation reasonably necessary to effectuate this authorization. Be it further resolved that Town Comptroller Mary Ann Maxwell is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget transfers or modifications required to fund the cost of this authorization. I offer this resolution as read, a long time coming.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Seconded by Councilman Channel. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Channel?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
And Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And it's important to note that at last week's town board work session, the vendor, the engineering firm, Hazen and Sawyer, if you recall, we requested that they go back and they sharpen their pencils on their proposal for this project. So I'm happy to report tonight that at the encouraging of the town board, meeting with the town engineer and Hazen and Sawyer principals of that company, they did agree to reduce the total amount of this project by $245,000. So they did reduce it substantially. We appreciate that. We thank them for working with the town of Carmel, and I'm sure the residents that reside in Carmel Water District Number 2 appreciate that they lowered the cost of their project by that amount. So it was almost $250,000 that they reduced the project by at our request. So thank you for doing that. And Rich, thank you for meeting with Hazen and Sawyer and getting that done. I appreciate it. Okay, so that completes the agenda items for tonight's voting meeting. It was lengthy, there were 19, but there was a lot of business that needed to get done tonight. Is there anybody here that would like to come up at this time and comment on any of the agenda items that we voted on this evening? If there is, come on up at this time.
Hi, I'm Erin Crowley from Carmel. I just wanted to know on agenda item number 17, the resolution, what was the total cost of that?
Mary Ann, do you have the total cost? I'm going to check with the town controller.
Okay, and were there other bids put out as well? There was.
We did.
Okay, I didn't see it. I apologize. Thank you very much.
I didn't hear what Mary Ann
Yeah,
said.
Mary Ann said there were other proposals. There was a request for other proposals. But we received, Mike, as you know, we just received the one. There was a request, Aaron.
There were other requests, but none were received?
None
Who did
other-
you put into for other requests?
None other were received by the controller's office.
So 2 requests for me of 3.
So,
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
yep, you're welcome. Thank you. Yes, sir. Just state your name, please.
Please speak
Hi.
into it because we'll pull it
Pull
closer to
it
you.
closer to you. Pull the mic. There you go.
Thank you. Yes, my name is James Comodi. I live in the hamlet of Carmel. I'd like to speak tonight about Resolution 3 first. I'm happy to see that we got grants for charging stations in Carmel now, thanks to the work of Councilman Sannel. And I want to echo what he said last session, that we should have some built in Vink Drive in the hamlet of Carmel, as there's currently no charging stations except for a level 1 that is not applicable to most charging vehicles in the Putnam Plaza. I'll also suggest a second one be built in ShopRite Plaza or the Carmel Plaza, where shoppers can charge a vehicle while they shop there. I think that makes sense. As well as that, I also want to comment on Resolution 9 about Cook Excavating's charges for labor. According to the invoice, they charge $184 an hour for machine operating for an emergency service, granted, but that's still more than 4 times the prevailing wage. As well, the labor performed was mainly digging, and for that labor, $159 an hour was charged. Now, they made more than 16 hours not getting a whole month. So I find that a little ridiculous. I wonder if there's any way to renegotiate the price with Cook Excavating and other contractors like them for services they render and hourly wages they charge. Thank you.
Yes, they do submit, when they're doing a municipal works project, such as the town of Carmel, for excavating for water, sewer, main repairs or breaks, they're required, under New York State labor law, they're required to submit for prevailing wages. So they have to do that. They have to submit prevailing wages on their projects. When they work privately, they do not have to, but under New York State labor law, they do. So that's why you see when they submit their invoices for payment, you see that the higher amount is charged. That's the prevailing wage that they're required to pay, that they're required to submit, and we're required to pay.
Are you saying that the standard cost for a machine operating in New York State is $184 an hour?
That's correct.
I've looked it up on the website that New York State Department of Labor. It's only $40 an hour.
Under prevailing wages?
Yes.
No, it's what they charge and what their hourly charge is and what the prevailing wage charge is. So we can go over that with you. If you want to contact my office, we could speak more about that. And the engineering department that oversees the invoices that are submitted, they're reviewed by the engineering department and approved by them. There is a schedule of prevailing wages that have to be paid. This started within the past couple of years, that they're submitting fees or hourly rates tied to prevailing wages. Previously, they didn't do that. They weren't submitted. But going back 2 years, they were required to.
Okay, if the wage schedule is showing that a machine operation costs $184 an hour in New York State can be given to me at some point, I'd appreciate that.
Okay. All right. The engineering department can help you with that?
I just want to say something to him.
Go ahead.
Is the other gentleman going to speak about Carmel Water too, or I'll wait till everybody's done? Good. Okay. If you look at that number, 3 years ago when I took this job, you were doing emergency repairs once a week. Okay? I sat down with our comptroller and went back 10 years. There was 100 people out here. We went back 10 years, and I showed you what you were spending on emergency Band-Aid repairs. This is the end of them. What you were spending on emergency Band-Aid repairs, and I'm shocked there's nobody else here on what we moved ahead with tonight with the new system, the new treatment plant, because what you paid in emergency repairs is going to pay for the bond pretty much almost 100% on the $35 million that has to be spent to rebuild the system completely. So the number's crazy. The state dictates it to us, but those numbers are going to be in the past because eventually it's going to be brand new. And you're not wasting the money anymore. Now that money's going into a bond for a brand new system. But those are the numbers that are dictated to us because I, as a contractor, looked at them and said, this is nuts. But that's what the state dictates.
Thank you, Councilman Barilli. If I could get some info from the engineering department about these dictations from the wage schedule, I, again, would appreciate it.
Yeah, if you contact the engineering department and speak to Rob Vara, he's the engineer projects coordinator. He can help you out with that, or I'm sure Rich Franzetti could as well. So you can either call, I would invite, call the department as opposed to coming here. And you can come here if you like, but you have to come in the main meeting room and they can come down and speak with you. But they can help you out with that information. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else on the voting meeting agenda tonight? Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, we're going to move on then. So I need a motion to close the voting meeting.
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Lombardi.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Channel. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I need a motion to open the work session.
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Lombardi.
Second.
Seconded by
Councilman
Channel. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The work session is now open for this evening. Good night, Ann.
Good
Thanks
night,
for
Ann.
being
Thank
here.
you.
Chief, if you want to take off, you can. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Yep. Have a good night.
Good night, Chief.
Okay, so the first item on the agenda, the work session agenda, Councilman Robert Channel and Dave Jenkins. Dave is here with us via Zoom, so he's on the TV in the back. Dave, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good. We're all doing well. Thanks for joining us via Zoom. This is Millennium Strategies. This is to consider proposal for grant writing services from Millennial Strategies. And Dave is here. I asked Dave to join us tonight to just go over, give us an overview, Dave, on the grant writing, your grant writing submissions so far in 2020. What you've submitted for and what our success rate was with respect to receiving grants. And what we spoke about the other day, if you can just, cover that regarding the CFA, the Consolidated Funding Application that you're going to be submitting funding for wastewater, WQIP, wastewater projects, and EFC for water projects in the town of Carmel. So these are two very large projects, upgrades and improvement projects, specifically in Carmel Water District Number 2, where the residents up there are going to be spending in excess of $35 million for a water treatment plant, water relining of the mains, and also rehabs of the water storage tanks and the construction of a new storage tank. So what are you going to be submitting applications for?
And then also the strategic plan.
Yeah, and
There may be some funding for that also to
Right.
increase economic development.
Right.
And then also the Swan Cove new park.
Right, the downtown Mahopac revitalization projects, we spoke about Swan Cove, the municipal parking lot, and the downtown sidewalks and lighting projects, as well as the Hamlet of Carmel Water 2 infrastructure project. So just, go over, give us an overview of what you've been doing, what you've been submitting for, and what you're able to secure funding for as well. So Appreciate that, Dave, and if you want to take it away now?
Sure thing. Thanks for having me tonight, obviously. Happy to be part of the conversation, happy to work with the town of Carmel. Just a quick overview, we're a company that specializes in grant research and writing for local governments. We have 18 grant writers on staff. The town has 3 individuals that are assigned to this town. Myself as the account director, another grant writer, and a research associate. We write a wide variety of grant applications across all different departments, trying to ensure that you have a constant pipeline of applications in development so that you're going to see a return on your investment in working with us. Process-wise, we're working with Bob Channel as the liaison for the town board. We work directly with the department heads as well. We meet internally every Monday, and we meet grant opportunities that include federal, state, and foundation-based grants. The planning process was just completed for 2021, and we have a host of targeted grant programs that we're looking into. This past year, we had 8 total awards, roughly $1.4 million. That was from April 2020 to present. We notified the town of roughly 44 new grant opportunities during that span of time. And we have 2 applications in process or in progress right now. They include Preserve New York, working with the Historical Society for the improvement and study of their structure, as well as the AARP Foundation for passive recreation improvements at Swan Cove and the Lake Mahopac revitalization project. When we look at 2020, it was a year like no other. I can emphasize that, and I think everybody feels the same way. One of the things that hampered our ability to go after some of the major needs that the town has, including water, sewer, and downtown revitalization, happened to be that the state froze their grant programs for 8 months. There was no main consolidated funding application cycle last year, and we did not have the same number of opportunities that we could pursue. 2021 is going to be a return to normalcy and then some. We're seeing, obviously, quite a bit of federal stimulus that's coming down. As a part of that $1.9 trillion package, we're looking at other programs the town might be able to apply to, even beyond its allocation that it receives. We've seen the beginnings of 2020 funds that were on hold, state programs, which are now being solicited for, and we expect to see a full 2021 state consolidated funding application cycle come the beginning of May. Just some highlights in terms of what we're targeting for this year. As part of the CFA cycle, we're looking at the local waterfront revitalization program for particularly Lake Mahopac and the improvement of that area. Specifically planning first, followed by the construction of the project itself later on next year. The park development program is available at the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. They have max grants of $600,000, so we're going to be targeting that. Empire State Development has a planning and feasibility study program, which you can apply for a funding that would provide you the ability to go out and get a consultant to put an economic development plan in place that would be in concert with your comprehensive plans development. So that's an excellent one to take a look at and pursuing from the CFA. A couple other programs that is part of that same funding cycle, the Climate Smart Communities program, looking at complete streets, multimodal transportation improvements, and improvements in and around downtown revitalization. And just as important, the water quality improvement program for sewer improvements, that is also a CFA program. Separate and aside from the CFA, which those are highlighted as 5, I think, core programs that we've discussed previously that we're planning on applying to for the town, would be DOT's Transportation Alternatives Program, which would be quite large in terms of awards, anywhere from $1 to $3 million. The Lake Mahopac project study that's taking place right there. Right now is an excellent fit for that program, whether it be pedestrian and safety improvements or overall traffic flow and general multimodal improvements in and around that area, bike paths, that type of thing. There's a wonderful opportunity through DOT for that. We anticipate that being available this year. We haven't seen it since 2019. It's typically out every 2 years, so it's right on track. And then The major opportunities we discussed yesterday, Supervisor, as you know, ESC has their WIA Clean Water Grant Program, which is specific to sewer, grants up to $5 million, and their WIA Drinking Water Grant Program with specific attention to Carmel Water District 2, funding up to $3 million per application. So expecting a very busy year, what I would consider to be a normal year. We want to be writing 1 to 2 applications a month. That's how the town is going to see a nice return on its investment. We did have success year 1, but obviously I anticipate a greater number of opportunities and really an opportunity to button down and get some big things done this year.
Okay, Dave, great. Thanks for that overview of the services that Millennium Strategies provides for the town. Again, there are grant writing consultants, and this is to consider a proposal for a new agreement, and they're not increasing their fee. It's $36,000 for 12 months, and that's what it was in 2020. So the agreement it takes effect on April 1st, and it runs through March 31st of 2022. So I for one, are very satisfied with the grant writing services that have been provided by Millennium Strategies and Dave Jenkins, your company. You guys done a great job. I know you've submitted for quite a few grant funding streams for the town of Carmel. And, you know, in the 12 months that you've been with us, and you've been successful in quite a few of them as well. We need to be very aggressive, and I said this the other day, Dave, for funding for the Carmel Water 2 projects. You know, that's something that that's a major cost to the town of Carmel, and it involves clean water and drinking water. And I'm hoping that there's going to be grant funding out there to assist us in paying for those projects to lift the burden off the taxpayers up in Water 2. They're going to be impacted pretty heavily from the cost of these projects when they're completed. So any monies that we can get to help those residents up there with respect to the district cost, that'd be great. So I know you're going to aggressively pursue any and all fundings that would be available that we might be able to apply for, and also the downtown Mahopac revitalization project that we're working on, the Swan Cove municipal parking, and the downtown lighting, sidewalk, and street projects as well. So we're hoping that there's going to be funding to assist us in that. The municipal parking lot will be a direct benefit to the public that for doing business in downtown Mahopac, and there might be funding out there as well to assist us in that cost. And also development of the Swan Cove recreation facility. Again, we're hopeful that there's monies in the form of grants that we'll be able to apply towards those projects as well. So just with emphasis on those, and I know that you're going to be applying for many other grant opportunities that the town may have, but because those are the largest and they're going to impact the taxpayers the most, just with emphasis on those, and continue to, you know, follow up on those and make sure that whatever we need to do to apply for those fundings, we do that. Okay? And again, I support the Millennium Strategies and your firm and what you've been doing, so I'm okay with renewing them for another year for 2021. How does the board feel about that?
Dave, I just want...
Best hire we've had in several years, best rehire we have right now, and especially since our previous grant writer delivered goose eggs for several years. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks,
Yeah, and
Mike.
I was gonna say the same thing. I mean, I know you came on last year, early last year, and it was not a typical year to measure any progress or any output, but there still was some from Millennium, which I was happy about. In the year that you've been on, I'm sure you had an opportunity to kind of gauge the town, gauge our needs. I know you've spoken to the town engineer and the other department heads as well. So I would just encourage you, you know, this year, hopefully things are changing with the state in terms of loosening up of money and also federal as well. So if you can continue working with the town engineer, with the highway superintendent, with the police chief, to gauge the needs that we have and anything that you can bring back for us, for the town of Carmel, for the taxpayers, we'd greatly appreciate. But I do appreciate the work that's been done to this point, although not your fault, the scope of it and the awards were limited based upon outside influences. But so thanks, I appreciate it, and look forward to another good year, Dave.
And Frank, it's important to note, and you mentioned that the state froze all dormitory authority funding for 20, so there was no funding released by the state.
But there still were applications that Dave, wrote, and they're delayed and pending and whatnot. So hopefully some of those pan through, and if we can double and triple what we did last year, that'd be fantastic.
Also want to thank Dave, too, for the work he's been doing thus far. I had a lot of experience with working with the police department in the past, and I know the grants are an enormous feat to undertake. And I think Dave and his company did an outstanding job trying to, grab hold of grants that were available in 2020 amid the COVID. But I know this year we're in constant contact as my part on the board. I've been in contact with Dave a lot, and we've got a lot of great ideas, and I'm confident that we're going to get a good amount of funding, especially like for Carmel Water District 2, hopefully for sewer expansion, the downtown project in Squan Cove. Very happy with the charging stations, and I would definitely like to get some more grants as far as for better environmental conditions. Maybe some type of power grants. Solar energy, that could be a possibility. There's a few ideas that we have, different town buildings and properties that may be able to host some of those. So a lot of things hopefully will be panning out this year. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm happy that you're working with us.
And Bob, thank you for being the liaison between the town and Dave. Working with him and your background as well, brings a lot to the table. So I appreciate you aggressively pursuing the funding, the grant funding with Dave.
And we do have one outstanding one he didn't mention was the New York State Department of Homeland Security. We have a grant that we had put in for to acquire and install an access control system for the Carmel Town Hall, which is well overdue. Something that we could definitely use. So hopefully we'll be getting that award next. Thank you.
All right, Dave. So we're going to renew the agreement with Millennium Strategies, and that'll be done on April 7th by resolution, but it'll be retroactive to April 1st. So it'll take effect April 1st, but we're approving the resolution on the 7th because that's the next time that the board's going to meet in a voting meeting session. All right, so does anybody have any further questions for Dave? If not, we're going to say goodnight to Dave and thank him for being here via Zoom platform. We all good?
Yep.
Good?
Thank you.
Dave, good night.
Thank you, Dave. Have a good night.
Thanks for being here. Have a good night.
It's a privilege to work with you guys. Let's have a big year.
Yep, let's hope so. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yep, you too. Okay, so next item on the agenda is Jackson Lewis. This is to consider a proposal for labor council services for Jackson Lewis PC law firm. They're located in White Plains. They've been the labor council for the town of Carmel probably, I'm going to say 5 years now, 4 or 5 years, Frank, right? Yeah, they're the law firm that handles all of our labor council matters. They assist the town board in negotiating with collective bargaining agreements for our four unions that we have, and any other labor matters that may arise during the course of the year we consult with, and we refer to Jackson Lewis. And they're
8 years.
Is it 8 years?
January 2012.
2012, they've been our labor council, and they've done a great job. They really have. They have a very good staff of attorneys as part of the Jackson Lewis law firm, and they've provided an excellent service to the town of Carmel. And this year, so these are their new rates that they're going to be charging for the remainder of the calendar year 2021. It's $305 per hour. I believe currently, Mary Ann, correct me if I'm wrong, it's $295 per hour is what they're charging us. So they're increasing it for the remainder of the calendar year 2021 by $10 to $305 per hour. For calendar year 2022, they're going to charge us $315 per hour. That's also a $10 increase over 2021. And for calendar year 2023, their rates are going to be proposed to be $320 per hour, That's a $5 increase over 22 to 2023 for Labor Council services to the town. So again, they're an excellent Labor Council law firm. They have very educated attorneys and experienced attorneys that work for that firm, and me, for one, as the town supervisor, I have a great working relationship with them, and anything that we've asked them to do, they've done a superlative job with legal services to the town of Carmel with respect to labor. So I'm good with renewing their contract, even with the increases from year to year. Board, what's your position on this?
Great law firm, but I'm going to check the rates, but great law firm.
Yeah, one of the reasons we brought them in is because they actually have a stake in the town of Carmel, that at least two of the partners there, one of whom I went to law school with, live here in the town of Carmel, very active members of the town. So I was going to suggest that the work is second to none. We've had experience with that in dealing with the contract negotiations over the years. But let me just give a call, and maybe between Councilman Borelli and myself, we can see what we can do with the terms.
With the rates?
With the terms.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's do that. Mike and Frank,
We
we'll do that?
did it last
You may
week
call.
with the...
Yeah, I know the person that signed this letter.
I think you can,
I think I could twist his arm a little bit. I have some pictures of him.
okay. All right, great. Thanks, Mike. Frank, thank you, because you have two contacts as well, Frank?
Yeah, well, we
So
brought,
let
I
Mike,
mean, I
let
brought, we
Mike,
brought them in. You know, I
let
brought
Mike
them
reach
in.
out to the
Let Mike, yeah,
attorney
Mike can do that.
that he's familiar with, all right?
Sure.
So let's do that. All right. Any other questions or comments on this item, Bob?
Nope, no
Anything?
questions.
Okay. All right, moving along, next item, number 3, consider agreement with Putnam County Real Property Tax Service Agency for the preparation of assessment rolls for the year 2021. So, Board, you have it in your backup that the Putnam County that processes the rolls from the town assessor sends the rolls up to the county, and the county processes those, and they handle them. They've been charging us 50 cents, right? It's Greg, they haven't increased it at all? Spent 50 cents for how long?
2008,
2008?
to the best of my knowledge, since you got here.
Yeah, so it's remained flat, and we use them for their services, and they do an excellent job with that. And there's no increase from year to year, and they work very closely with the town assessor in preparing the tax rolls. So I recommend that we approve the agreement with Putnam County for the real property services that they provide to the town in preparing the rolls and getting them ready to be mailed out. Any questions, comments with respect to the county's increase? Okay. All right, next, number 4, Rich Franzetti, PE, Town Engineer. Consider request to advertise for bids for the water service line replacement, Carmel Water District Number 8, Woodland Road. Rich?
Good evening, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So there are homeowners at 480 Kennecott Hill Road who are provided water service for your vein located on Woodland Court, contacted the engineering department to complain about discolored water at their residence. Upon further investigation, it was determined that a single 2-inch service line feeds this residence and its neighbor, was the original galvan...
Pull it closer to you, please.
No problem, sorry. You want me to start over?
No, it's okay.
Upon further investigation, it was determined that a single 2-inch service line services the residences was the original galvanized pipes, which should have been replaced during the Carmel Water District 8 water line system upgrade. The proposed water line replacement work in Carmel Water District 8 is to replace the 2-inch line, the galvanized service line, with 2 1-inch copper lines. We anticipate the pricing for this project will exceed GML threshold $35,000, and we request authorization for this project to go out to public bid.
Rich, when you say that it should have been done during the Carmel 8 upgrade, did we look at the plans from then to see, number one, if it was part of that plan?
It was not. It was not included. It was an oversight at that time.
Okay. All right. That was where I was going.
Yep.
All right. All right. Any other questions? Anyone?
No.
Rich, number 5. This is a request to authorize change order contract number C248 National Meeting Services, and the nice part of it, the title says no cost to the town. Go ahead, continue.
You pretty much hit the nail on the head there. So, as the board is aware, the reference project, which is the town-wide meter install, was awarded to National Metering Services, and contracts were signed and a notice to proceed was issued by this department, engineering, May 30th and 18. The board previously approved the no-cost change order in August of 2019, as provided in an attached resolution. NMS continued to install meters to the end of 2020, and to date, approximately 3,257 meters have been installed, around 90% of total. NMS has made this department aware that they are willing to continue operations for an additional 60 days. However, the original pricing needs to be adjusted, as it is now over 4 years old. In addition, they've requested that all retainage over 1 year old be returned. The board should note that as per the contract terms, retainage will be held for any future work or work that is under 1 year old. There is a contractor's price quote which reflects the costs associated with the line items. Thus, this change order represents a no-cost change order for the project. In addition, due to delays in starting the project, it is recommended that the date for substantial completion be changed to June 30th, 2021. The delay was not caused by the contractor. In order to ensure appropriate time for the contractor to complete the project, we recommend the board authorize this change order, no-cost change order.
All right, no cost change order. Anybody have any questions on that? Probably
No,
not.
no questions at all.
No. Number 6, Rich Franzetti, this is consider request to award bid for further remediation services, Lake Cassie and Lake Tea Kettle dams.
So as the board is aware, the engineering department solicited proposals from qualified engineering consultants to prepare bid documents and specifications and construction administration for the Lake Cassie and Tea Kettle Dam rehabilitation. The board authorized Weston and Sampson at that time to perform this service. To date, the tree cutting and vegetation removal from the upstream and downstream embankments of Lake Cassie, Upper Tea Kettle, and Tea Kettle Spout Lakes have been completed, including all the seeding and loaming. A status and summary of next step has been provided to the board for review. Prior investigations and inspections by the state and others identified issues including potential presence of seepage and animal burrows that will require further remedial measures. The prior engineering assessment by White Engineering included a H&H, hydrologic and hydraulic assessment, and visual inspection to identify potential capacity and stability concerns. A summary of the action items, as identified by White Engineering, is provided in an October 4th, 28 memorandum that was provided to the board. I did not include the attachments because it would have been like 300 pages. The summary reports recommended the following actions in addition to the removal of trees, which has been performed for each of the dams. It included the clearing of outlet pipes, hydraulic analysis of the metal grates and chain link fence system for the primary spillways, geotechnical explorations, video inspections of the riser spillways and outlet pipes, and conducting of topographic surveys of the dams. Weston and Sampson, at the request of the engineering department, was asked to provide a proposal to move forward with the next steps for the dam rehab project. Their proposal is attached, and the summary of the costs are provided to the board. For Lake Cassie, the total would be $70,400. For Upper Tea Kettle, it was $37,300, and for Lower Tea Kettle, it's $35,500. The board should note that I requested the contingencies be included in there to cover any issues that may occur with some of the cleaning of the outlet structures. There may be a need for cofferdams or special dams to make sure we're able to access the lower part of the dam. So the downstream embankment, they discharge into a stream, and they're pretty much covered or halfway filled up, and so we need to make sure that we don't have water backfilling in while we're doing the work. This work is required, just so the board knows, to meet New York State DEC requirements. It's part of the engineering assessment that was performed by White Engineering, and the dams, 2 of the dams are Class B dams, which are intermediate hazard, and 1 dam is a Class A dam, which is the Lower Tea Kettle, which is a low-class dam, where Mayapac's dam is a Class C dam, a high-hazard dam. So I recommend at this time that the relative cost of proposed work, along with providing continuity and moving the project forward, we recommend the contract be awarded to Weston and Sampson in order to do this work, to continue this work for the town and to make sure we meet the state's criteria.
Rich, did you review the proposal and the additional work that is required pursuant to DEC?
Yes, I have. This is the next step to get to the endpoint here, to meet the overall engineering assessment requirements that were identified.
No, I remember when we did this, but, so the previous proposal that we had, they started to work on them obviously already, right?
The first phase of it is completed.
Okay. So we're talking about, for example, for Lake Cassie, it's an additional 19, almost 20,000?
That's contingencies.
Okay, so what's the new proposal is 50, 31, and 29?
Yes. The contingencies are there in case there's supplemental borings needed, in case there's supplemental surveys, in case there's a cofferdam or any of the other work that is needed. So this would be a not to exceed if we're going to enter into this. It would obviously not to exceed. We need to bond this anyway. So this work, we don't have this funding anywhere. It needs to be bonded. Nothing would be awarded to Weston and Sampson until bonding or to the bond money has been awarded or been approved. So
And based on your reviewing of this, this is stuff that's necessary pursuant to the next step in this process?
this is necessary.
That's been forced upon us by the state of New York?
Correct. As part of the engineering assessment, which is part of the criteria of the New York State DEC dam folks, this is what is required for these dams. These dams, I don't want to say they had a lot of growth on them. They had a lot of trees. If anybody was there, if anybody's seen the dams now, you drive by and you go, wow, we have a dam over there. We have open space that we didn't know we had. We had a lot of large trees there. Those trees are not beneficial to the life of a dam. They need to be ultimately removed. Part of the assessment that you have to do is once you remove that vegetation, you assess everything that you need to assess to go to the next steps. For instance, Lake Cassie has some kind of dip in there. We know that there is some kind of seepage in there, so geotechnical borings are required to figure out. Maybe the next step is to identify that you inject some kind of filler in there to make sure, but like a borite. Is it borite? And Carl Stone from Weston and Sampson's here if you have any additional questions. I apologize, I should have said that. But you would put in a filler in there like you would backfill a well. You would do that to make sure the dam gets stabilized. And that that is what the state requires as part of this whole thing.
All right, and when I said us, I didn't mean us as a town. I meant us as the individual districts of Lake Cassie and Tea Kettle Spout Lake.
Yes, it is the districts for them, yes.
Any further questions?
Too bad Dave left. He could have maybe tried to get us some money.
Get some money for this.
Well, we have asked him that, and we will provide this information to him. So,
Yeah, I think it needs to be done
We
like
spoke to
yesterday.
him the other day, we had
On
spoke
this?
to.
oh yeah, this was on the list already 2 years ago, 4 years ago. We've had this information in front. The prior grant writer did not get us anything as
It
was
just
noted.
seems that if
so.
the state is forcing these districts to do this work, at least they should, which is my argument that I've made for the last 10 years, if you're going to force something upon us, make sure you send a check along with it. And, no offense to you, because it has nothing to do with you. This is I go back to that story that I used to tell, remember back in early, I don't know, was it 2009, Mike? Remember when they made us change the street signs in capital letters? Because, they weren't going to send us a check with them, so we started some of those, and then all of a sudden, oh wait, no, people aren't going to get lost. We can leave them the way they are. Do you remember? Yeah, GPS got better. So, if you can reach out to Dave and keep us apprised of, I know we're forced to do this, I get it, but it's just,
It's on our list to try to get grant money for it.
okay.
Yeah, Carl. Yeah, go up to the podium.
Please come up.
How are you, Carl?
Good, thank you. And for this comment, I'm here as a resident, not as the representative engineer. I fully agree with what you're saying. I'm really tired of
Most people
unfunded
do.
mandate. I'm really tired of unfunded mandates myself. I'm sure we all are. And I think that an area that you may want to speak with your grant writer about is this may tie into some resiliency-related funding, because there's been, the big change with all the storms and so forth. So that might be an angle that you could leverage as beefing up these dams.
Carl, if you can maybe discuss that with Rich, this way they can present it.
Happy to. Yeah.
In a specific category to our grant writer,
Sure.
If you have a little more experience with it, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. All right, any further questions for Rich on this item?
I was good tonight, I only had 3 items, so
All right,
Rich is out.
thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Rich.
All right, next, 7 and 8 are Mary Ann Maxwell, the Town Controller. 7 is to consider budget revisions, January, February of 2021. Hey, Mary Ann.
Good evening. This is the budget revisions for January and February of 2021. Number 1, in the general fund, we're providing for the cost of outside legal investigation. $6,000 is coming from the fund balance. Also in the general fund, number 2, we're providing for the payout of accrued vacation time of $1,972. Number 3, we're recording the encumbrances forward, increasing the budget from 2020 to 2021. The total amount in the general fund is $825,197. Number 5, we're transferring $18,000 from the contingency line to cover the cost of snow plowing for the downtown property per the contract when we bought those parcels of land. In the Lake Mayapack Park District, number 7, we're providing for the fish study of $16,000. That was approved by resolution last year, and we're just, I believe they're going to be doing that work this year, the study this year. In the Tea Kettle Park District, we're transferring $100 for lake treatment expenses. On page 2, in the Highway Fund, we're providing for the payout of accrued time for a retiree in the Highway Fund, $42,536. That comes from the General Fund Compensated Absence Fund Balance. Number 10, in the Garbage District, the Cluster Garbage District, we're providing for the Garbage District contract expense of $6,735. Number 7, in Water District number 7, number 11, we're providing for the equipment and emergency repairs from the insurance claim. The total insurance claim was $19,770. Carmel Sewer District number 7, we're providing for the expenses to microfiltration plant from reimbursement from New York City DEP. Total is $20,000. Long Pond Road Capital Project, we're providing for the transfer to the debt fund to close this capital project. This project was bonded out in October of 2020. So the balance in the capital fund will be transferred to the debt fund to help pay for the debt over the 10-year bond. In the East of Hudson Community Wastewater Capital Project, we're providing for the Community Wastewater Planning Assistance Program, and this is coming from grant aid. And that total is $1,108,686.
Is that it for this item, Mary Ann?
That's it, yes.
Okay. Any board members have any questions, comments for Mary Ann on this item? No? Okay. Thanks, Mary Ann. Go on to number 8. This is a fund balance analysis, 2014 to 2020.
Okay, in 2020, the auditors have been here this week and last week, so this is the final fund balance for the general and highway funds. So from 2019, in the general fund, the fund balance is going from $9,874,000 to $10,587,000. Most of the fund balances, the designated fund balance are staying the same. The unreserved designated fund balance did increase from $3,003,000 to $3,007,000. In the general fund. In the highway fund, there was some surplus in the highway fund, so we were able to increase the capital reserve, which I had mentioned last week at the meeting, from $190,000 to $850,000. So the capital reserve for machinery is up to $850,000 in the highway fund. We did have to increase the comp absence reserve from $325,000 to $375,000. That's to pay out any retirees that we have to pay out, like we did earlier in that for a retiree. The snow reserve is staying at $750,000, and the unreserved fund balance is going from $295,000 to $544,000. So the total fund balance for the highway fund did increase $1 million from $1,686,000 to $2,647,000. So we just need a resolution authorizing the fund balances for year-end 2020.
That's good news.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good news. We have money to buy equipment
Yes,
without financing it.
right.
Yeah, great news. Thank you. So Greg, you'll prepare the resolutions on the 7th? Okay. All right, any further questions for Mary Ann for her report?
No?
Thank you,
All
Mary.
right, good job, Mary Ann, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll probably stick around because
Yeah, you better stick around for, all right, Mike, you're
you
up.
want to sit there.
Let's see,
and then
do
I'll
these
just go
numbers
to-
match up?
Let's
See
see.
what's
Just,
going on.
exactly. I'm just leading into his,
Consider 2021 highway capital funding.
Good
Hey,
evening,
Mike.
Board.
that was a good,
Good
segue.
segue, you're right.
Good segue.
And the other segue was the earlier part of the earlier meeting. We did go out, we will be going out to bid for our spring materials, which will bring us to the next part, which is our capital program that we do each year. Ahead of you, in front of you will be my paving program. We've been pretty consistent with this, and we add our CHIPS money into this. And I'm asking again for $750,000, along with our drainage, which I'm asking for $200,000. These two things, Mary Ann will probably have to go to bond council, and we'll have to meet as a stop-up period. And coming in now in March gets me really into the ground in May. So looking forward to getting this done, now early, so that we can, during the building season, be in the ground doing our work. As we stated, in front of you is what I'm anticipating needing this year for equipment. And as was stated both by Mary Ann and we have been discussing, it looks like a year that we can take off from borrowing any money. I think we can purchase all this equipment right out of our fund balance that we've amassed over the last 2 years of having milder winters and saving on material and overtime. So
Nice change.
that's a good news, which.
That's a nice change.
It is, it is.
Yeah,
And,
it is good.
I can't say that every year will happen, but having this happen does help us a lot. I know that the board has helped in putting away money year after year to try to offset this, but this has taken a whole year off, which I think is going to
It's good, yeah, and we also
look great
budgeted,
down the road, so.
yeah, and we also budgeted in 2021, $150,000, which we have done over probably the last 10 years
10
or
years,
so.
yeah.
We've started budgeting money, and, that's what helped build up that fund balance, but it also was a surplus from last year,
Sure.
in the snow reserves, so.
Mike, what did you, last year for 2020, and I don't know if it was an anomaly or not, what did you spend in paving last year?
Just about everything I got. I think we came up with, we were about.
Yeah. Paving,
Again,
we're-
only, and I will tell you the reason we were short, I would have spent it all, but unfortunately, COVID.
No,
we didn't
that's
get
what I was,
started.
that's what I was
We did
leading
a lot
into,
of work
because
last
there was a
year. I
lot
tell you
of,
what, we did a lot of work.
right,
In a COVID year where I didn't think
Yep.
we would.
okay,
But I will tell you, the decreased traffic on the road
was helpful.
helped us tremendously.
Yeah.
Not having school buses, having commuters, I would tell you, we did more work than I ever thought we'd do. Plus,
Okay.
the fact was that my men, and I put this out to them, we can only take vacations from April till
Right.
November.
Yeah.
But I said, guys, you can't go anywhere.
Right,
So.
let's get it done.
No, if we can hang around here, and I will entertain giving you time off at a later date, but
Yeah.
during the busiest summer months, which really we only have 16 weeks to do our construction work in, before we turn into winter again. If you can stay around then, we can get a lot of work done. And these guys, I'm gonna tell you, they worked tremendously, they worked with me, and we did a lot of work last year.
So both the paving and the drainage, we basically used up what we had last year.
Just about, just about.
Yeah, we do
fine.
have some money left in drainage.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have money, we have about $150,000 left in drainage.
So do you
So that on
anticipate,
top
well, that's what I was gonna ask you, do you anticipate doing total $350,000 worth of drainage this year, or because we have that money in there, this can be reduced?
This probably can be reduced.
Okay.
But I won't know.
We can authorize the 200,000.
No, I
Yeah,
get it, I
yeah.
understand, I
This
just
is
want,
kind
for the
of a-
sake of the
Yeah, and
for the
then
sake
we
of the
won't
public, I want
borrow-
them to understand the work that was done by the highway department. There was a lot of work done last year, but, we're talking about these numbers now, and
Yeah.
if we didn't use all 150, and again, I know we can authorize more and obviously not use it, but if we can authorize less if we don't need, if you don't think you're gonna get to, 250 or 200, but,
And Frank, just, and this is, again, this is pretty much what we do every year.
I know it
We
is.
can authorize, but Mary Ann and I talk quite a bit.
Yeah.
And if it's not needed, when we come to
Yeah.
September,
Yeah,
We don't put it-
we'll
well,
talk
we-
about the numbers. If we authorize 200,000, kind of similar to the water district too, we just authorized 500. If we don't, that's just authorizing. There's
No,
a-
and I
There's a
understand. The only
difference,
reason I asked
just
is
so the
because,
public knows, it's authorizing and then there's issuing.
again, I understand.
So I know you
Yeah.
understand. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure the public.
No, I was just trying to
know.
say that I know that these numbers are pretty, every year you come with the same dollar amounts, but I just wanted to see where we were in terms of last year.
Yeah.
I know a lot of work was done, but if we had any extra money left over.
I think you put a lot of your drainage into the CHIPS reimbursement,
I
right?
did,
Yeah.
because.
And I think
again,
that's why.
And the reason
yeah.
being, you gotta understand that last year, because of COVID, the governor froze everything.
Mm-hmm.
Not only everybody, but he froze CHIPS money too. And he didn't tell us until July 1st that we were gonna have a 20% cut, and he released the money at that point. We were also told that when he released the money, spend it as quick as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't line up my paving contractors fast enough to get them in here.
Right.
Plus I had to do drainage work. So my first priority was making sure I got my drainage work done first and spend as much money as I could of the
Yeah.
CHIPS money. So I
Can you, and I don't remember, can you use drainage money for paving and vice versa?
I do use some of my drainage money for paving, so that if I cut up a road and have to replace that road with pavement, I use pavement money to do that section.
Gotcha, okay. Only because we have the extra money,
No, right,
if
yeah.
you needed to do extra
Yep.
paving, we have, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Now, the good news, because usually I'm here looking and asking Greg and Mary Ann to hurry on and get things going. So I think the good news here is that by looking at this capital money, we have the money here. You'll be seeing me come in much quicker now with, these are budget quote numbers. Now I'm going to come in with bid numbers. And I'm going to ask to purchase this stuff much faster rather than having to wait the
For
estoppel
bonds,
period.
for the
I'm
bond, yeah.
I'm gonna tell you that I'm gonna try to pull my trigger as fast as possible, because as of right now, last year's truck, I'm still waiting for it. And we authorized.
Last year's truck.
Last year's truck. I won't see it until June.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, COVID affected many things. First, the manufacturing. The fact that, we were a little delayed getting it out. I did see a loader, a over-the-rail mower that I purchased last year is in as of right now, so I will have it in place for this spring. But my truck, I missed the whole winter, and as you see, I'm looking for 2 trucks for next year, which I need desperately because I've got to retire some of the 04s and 05s.
Right.
So you'll see me come back in here real fast now. So.
Okay.
Yeah, if you find that 10-wheeler, Mike, come on in with that as
Yeah,
soon as you
again-
locate one.
Again, that's more or less, I'm gonna write a spec to it
Yeah.
and try to find something, but I will tell you that, again, the used market we're finding out there is pretty,
It's insane.
pretty good right now because, nobody's building, nobody's doing anything. That year off hurt a lot of
For a
people.
lot of people, yeah.
But it could help
A lot of-
us.
Yep. Good. Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Yep.
Thank you.
All right.
Mary Ann, I'll tell you again, you deserve more money, and I hope the public realizes how important you are to the budgeting of this town.
Okay, so that completes the agenda items. By the way, I concur with you, Mike.
Tell her.
Yeah, I tell her every day.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do, right?
You know,
I call her up.
there are people that are important, and there are people, everybody in this building is important. As far as I'm concerned, that's the most important one to me
Yeah,
right now.
the money person. You got it. I agree. All right, so that completes the agenda items for the work session for tonight. Is there anyone here that would like to come up and comment on the work session items that we just went over? If there are, come on up. Erin?
Sorry, guys.
No, it's quite all right.
It's a pleasure to have somebody in the audience.
I'm taking autographs after. Erin from Mayapack, Carmel. So I have a question about town board work session number 1. Has anybody ever looked into a county-wide grant writer? It's not a very long course. It's not fiscally outrageous. And it might be good to have somebody vested in the community who cares a lot and establishes the relationships.
Aaron, we did
Because
talk.
it's based
yeah,
on relationships. I
I'm
have a
glad-
non-for-profit, so
I'm
that's
glad-
like 100% of like what a grant writer needs.
I'm glad you brought that up, because during our shared services meetings with the county that we had for the past 2 or 3 years, that came up about sharing a grant writing service.
Yeah.
But the thought was that municipalities that had their own grant writer that focused solely on that particular municipality, such as Carmel, Southeast, Patterson, wherever, were more effective, and they were able to secure grant funding by their, by working on those particular grants that are focused on that community. So we did talk about it. It did come up, but there wasn't much interest in that as a shared service with the county or any of the other towns. We talked about perhaps pooling our money, our funding, our resources, and hiring just one large grant writing firm. But they felt that the hometown touch, so to speak, of working for just that one town and using just one grant writer, you were losing some effectiveness.
That's amazing, is
Penny,
to have, because,
I would believe, I'm sorry to interrupt, I would wholeheartedly agree with, we have our own, right? And
Right.
and for the cost that it is to us, it's well worth the cost of having someone focus on, do you know how many different Carmel sewer districts, water districts, park districts, lighting districts, just to name a few that we have here in the town of Carmel? I would rather have someone, and for the money that we're spending, have them focus on just our needs. There's a lot of needs out in Putnam County, but I would rather focus on the needs of the residents, of the taxpayers of the town of Carmel. So I would never be in favor of that, based upon the work that has been done by Millennium and the progress, even in a COVID year that we've seen. The money is well spent.
And they're constantly in contact with us.
I
Every
agree,
day we-
but being vested in a town is something that means a lot too. Like you just said, the relationship between the town and the relationship that these grant writers, half the grants that you receive, you have to actually get an invitation to even write a grant. So establishing the love for your community, and also, I mean, if you want to go to Notre Dame for it, it's $5,000 tops, 8 weeks course, and you can extend upon that and build upon it. It's not something that's ridiculous and crazy. Yes, I understand that is a great cost, but they're not local to us.
No,
We are,
but they actually are.
they're not in Mayapack or Carmel, just like we discussed
Yeah,
about.
but we can have the guy on the TV screen be here.
But local
Just-
business is something that's more important.
There's
And-
no local grant writers here in town. We
I-
tried.
that's-
This is
that's what I'm
highly-
talking
Yeah,
about.
they were highly recommended. If you look at the list of towns and municipalities that they use, they're phenomenal. I mean,
I'm
they're
not judging
Yeah, no, I
their
understand.
ability. What I'm telling,
Upstate. Some upstate.
what I'm saying to you is like Supervisor Schmidt just said, that the worth of them to Patterson and the amount that they did for them as being just for Patterson far outweighed it going to be a countywide service because they did better for the town. Is that,
Yeah.
am I correct?
Exactly right.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm asking. It's not an expensive course. It's somebody who would be vested, doesn't take a long time, and they really work for the town because, like you and everybody else up here, we care, and it's something that means more, and you're establishing a relationship. That's most of what a grant writer
Well,
does.
the only thing with that is that we'd have to hire someone full-time with full-time benefits and full-time salary and all that
It's
stuff.
not
to
full-time,
grant
and it
write.
costs about, the average salary is about $35,000 for a grant writer.
Did you see what we pay?
I do. I saw what you pay, but do they have the heart?
I'm sorry?
Do they have the heart?
Do they have
I have a heart, and I'm.
The heart of being part of the community is
Well,
what
I
I'm
have a heart,
saying.
and
You
I have
fight for your
extensive
community.
experience in grant writing, and
We're
I
in
think
touch
it's
with them
fine.
constantly.
working
Mr.
with
Schmidt,
them.
Supervisor Schmidt just said the difference of being, and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth verbatim, but what did you say?
Well, having a local grant writer that is specifically geared towards certain efforts in securing grant funding for one municipality is much better. You get a better efficiency and effectiveness from having the one as opposed to being one grant writer under for a larger county or the Townsend County.
Right, but they also didn't want to work for other towns either because of,
Well, no, if it's a shared service, in other words, if.
but they're town, you said they were town, right?
Right.
Municipalities, so that would be being shared too. It worked better to just have a town one or a
Correct,
municipality.
you're 100% correct. You're better off having your own local contracted grant writing firm, such as Millennium Strategies, as opposed to working under one umbrella
But that's not a local grant writing.
of one grant writing firm writing grants for the entire county.
Right, I understand, but that is not a local, Millennium, I'm not debating, they've done a great job, but I'm just saying they're not a local grant writing, firm.
Yeah,
They may
they're-
be in New York State, but they're not local.
Right.
Right, so
They-
that was all, I was just confirming
yeah.
what you said.
Yep,
So
yep.
that was it.
And we do try to collaborate with the town, the county, and the state. There's a historic preservation grant that's available, and we were looking at 3 locations. One was the Belden House. That's completely falling apart, and I would love to be able to get involved with that with New York City and the county.
We
work
need to get the
collaboratively
historic-
to get money for it.
We
and
need to
that's
get them up
exactly
and
what it's
running
for.
again, though, the
And
historic
it
society.
starts off with, a plan on how much it will cost to, refurbish, take it over. I don't know, how would we go about doing it, if we would possibly get it from the city, if they'd be willing to give it up. But I'm hoping that they would at least want to, keep it in historic, condition, that we can, fix it up. And if we get together with the 3 different, jurisdictions, I think we have a good shot at getting it.
And how involved is the Historic Society now? Because I've spoken to a couple people, and they said they really haven't been active in quite some time.
We talked about that, yeah. We're going to reorganize. We're going to reorganize the Historical Society.
The heart and soul
And that was another-
have
Has-
departed.
have
Yes, I'm well aware.
And sadly, they've lost,
Yeah.
really, the core.
Yeah.
It's a big
Multiple people
loss.
have
Yes.
lost, but.
I understand, but I also understand that the committee has also not been active because of that, and nobody's been replaced or moved up to move further with it.
We have a meeting scheduled for April 15th with folks that want to get involved with it. They want to begin participating and join the Historical Societies, being
Mahopac?
active members. Mahopac, yeah, all Mahopac.
I mean, old school Mahopac, that's why I said it.
All
And Jim Meyer,
Mahopac, yes.
he is assisting with the grant, with this historic preservation grant.
Okay.
We've been in contact, him and Dave.
Yeah.
Okay, great, good to know.
You're gonna see the Historical Society, which is right up the street here in the old town hall. You're gonna see that become much more active and much more community involved, because the folks that have agreed, or that I've spoken to, that are willing to come on board with that and serve on the Historical Society Committee, they're very active in the
They
community.
take pride.
Yes,
And
they
they're very sad that they haven't done
Yeah.
a lot, and we have great things throughout the community
I-
that we need to really preserve, so.
I can tell you, there's so much rich history about the town of Carmel and Mahopac Falls up in that building that nobody even knows about. It's there, it's just.
That's another reason for tourism.
We're not educating.
Exactly.
And that's what we need to bring in is tourism, and it drives sales up and brings our property taxes down. It's all a full circle, so,
That's right.
It sure is.
all right?
You'll be hearing from the new committee within the next month or two.
I hope so.
Yep.
Thank you
So,
for your time.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else for any comments on the agenda items that we just covered under the work session? Is there anybody here for the open forum, new business portion of the meeting? Must be a town resident, property owner, business owner in the town for this portion of the meeting. Okay, there being none, town board members have any?
Yeah, I just have
Any
one.
announcements?
This is the last time I'll announce it. This coming Saturday from 10 to 1 at St. John's, the Evangelist Church at 2221 East Lake Boulevard. We're going to be holding our drive-through food drive, non-perishable items. One of the things that they asked for this week were diapers. So if anybody had the ability to bring diapers, that's something that they are in need of, in addition to the foodstuffs as well. So anybody have any questions, you can contact myself or Marian Chaluzian, either on Facebook, or you can contact me here through the town. And these flyers should be up and about on social media and all over. So if you're able to, please stop by and make a donation of foodstuffs, gift cards, cash. There'll be somebody there from the church to take all that.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Mike, do you have anything?
Yeah, we have no meeting next week, so 2 weeks I'm getting a lot of calls on the other two theft of services, and I'd like to be able to tell the public what's going on in about 2 weeks. I think that's enough time.
It's to be 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Because the meeting after that is the fifth
It was
Wednesday.
the fifth,
In 3 weeks will give more than enough time then,
yeah.
okay?
Right. Actually, Mike, we met with, without giving out too much information, with respect to the most recent one, we met with the PD today. They came up to my office, and the engineer and I met with them to go over the specifics of that particular one.
What PD?
Carmel PD.
Okay.
Carmel
Just
PD came up.
interesting, it's just interesting why Carmel PD is handling this. Just interesting. I just want the public to know, so in 3 weeks, we'll tell the public why PD is doing this one and the status of it.
Well, they're a local law enforcement agency, and they're certainly qualified and capable of investigating this complaint.
Didn't the sheriff do the last one?
They investigate the last one.
Shouldn't it be the same entity, the sheriff?
It was the town board, I'll tell you this right now, the town board didn't request any law enforcement agency to investigate the last complaint, the one you're referring to.
They requested it, they requested a legal, and the legal requested
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't want to get into it now, but the town board hired a company that did the work for them, and I have all the records to show it. We just have to explain in 3 weeks why there was a different set of,
Okay,
different set of
and Mike, for the record, you know I voted no for that law firm.
Yes, I know. I know.
I didn't agree with it.
I
I did not agree with it. So I
I
just
know.
want to make that clear to everyone that this board member wasn't in favor of that.
I know that.
particular law firm. Okay.
and you didn't, and you wouldn't sign the contract.
I wouldn't. I would not. No. And I didn't report, or me personally, didn't report your particular incident that you're talking about, that one, to any law enforcement agency to investigate. I
Okay.
had nothing to do with that.
Okay.
That's
It's not
for the
what- it's
record.
not what this is about.
I know it's not. I know. But there's some inferences being made, and I just want to state that, what was mentioned, this particular board member had nothing to do with.
Okay. I'm good.
Okay. We all good? Bob, you had
All right,
something,
well, I
right?
would just like to wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day, and be safe. Agreed.
Happy St. Patty's Day
Thanks.
to everybody. Be safe. Enjoy. Yeah, I need a motion to adjourn. So moved.
Second.